Love is blind, and it'll take over your mind. What you think is love is truly not. You need to elevate and find. Love is blind, and it'll take over your mind. What you think is love is truly not. You need to elevate and find.
Thank you for tuning in to Three Queens and Things, a space where queens connect. Our podcast will be bringing you the latest and greatest on topics of self-love and womanhood. I'm Mimi Ford.
I'm Auntie.
And I'm Sola T.
And we are
Three Queens and Things.
Hey, y'all. We back.
Hey. And it ain't been a minute. Ooh, that's nice when you hit them back to back. But, y'all, today is a special day because we have a queen of honor here with us today for our subject. So, Miss Janae, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Say a little word to the
I'm
to the
Janae, you feel me?
She came with the,
y'all
midnight love voice. Okay, I am not mad.
I am pleasured to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure to have you.
Yes. So, as with every episode, today we're going to be talking about just a real ass topic, and I think we can say it's sensitive, but it can be that, but it's just real as hell, and I think it's only right for us to be able to kind of have this conversation, open up this conversation as it is one that's going to need to be continued.
Absolutely.
So today's roundtable, we have our first question is: would you identify as an advocate? If so, for what causes?
Yeah, I would consider myself as an advocate for domestic violences pertaining to women, children, juveniles. I've done a lot of work with juveniles. I worked with Metro as well. We did a video that is now teaching the Metro police officers, domestic violence police officers, about specifically handling women that are going through domestic, even men that are going through domestic violence as well. So any chance that I get and I see somebody or hear somebody going through a domestic violence situation, or even just as far as the verbal part that can lead escalating to the physical, because which it ultimately does, I'm always sharing something. I don't intrude too much because it's a touchy subject for anybody. But I let them know that I'm there, and I just give my feedback and what I've been through, and I have no problem sharing my life experiences.
Right, that's dope.
Do you feel like, I know we jumping into it, do you feel like a lot of people or a lot of women that you come across are in denial maybe about being in a domestic situation?
Absolutely. I was one of them. I didn't know what domestic violence was. It wasn't something that I grew up around, so it caught me off guard when I was in the relationship. So I didn't know when to leave, or what bad love was, or things like that.
Most of us do.
Right.
That's something like what types of love,
right?
What that looks like.
As I got older, love isn't supposed to hurt by any means, and whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, however you want to put it, it just shouldn't. And so it took a minute for me to come to terms with that and an understanding that that's not what love is.
Right. I know we're going to let you tell your story, so I ain't going to ask all the questions.
I'm ready to jump and shoot.
I'm just
jump right in, dive right in. I think maybe you got any specific other things that we advocate?
I'm just an advocate for women, period. Wherever I can lend my voice, help, or whatever the case may be, I'm just here. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I would label myself as an advocate for anything. I feel like I am a supporter of all things that uplift people. But I don't know if there's one thing in particular that I'm like, this is what I'm speaking out against. I just feel like I'm always, if you need me to be supportive on whatever is going to help you be in a better spot, that's what I'm here to provide.
Yeah. I think I'm a big advocate for just being a womanist. That's something that I have encounter kind of what that means and the fullness of that. So there is feminism, which is, for the equality, and I don't even think equality is always a fitting word, but for the empowerment of women is how I would rather say that. And then womanism definitely is that interconnection to me being a black female, and not only as black female, be black female considered and passionate and empowering of the Black family, whether that be a Black man specifically and exclusively, and the Black children, and just kind of that whole picture of the Black community. So kind of anything that ties to that, I'm an advocate of. I'm an advocate of LGBT communities and having those basic rights for undocumented workers and undocumented people in the United States. That's something that I'm an advocate of.
So you speak out, you're advocate for the minority in any situation.
Not, I won't say in any situation, but in those particular particular situations, because there's just some things like I think being an advocate requires you not to just be a supporter. It really requires you to be a little bit more specific and be more intentional and be more active in that. To really not just let somebody say something, but really you have the courage, the time, not only to address it, but sometimes to provide education and to remember that it's not your voice, it's somebody else's voice. And so I think that I can't say that I'm an advocate for a lot of things, but those three things in particular are deep.
What made you so passionate about, in particular, because how do you put yourself in your shoes of a person for, like you said, for instance, the LGBT community? You're not, you don't identify as that. So, like, how did you become so passionate about it to be an advocate?
So I think just learning about advocacy in general would allow me to say that I can be connected to a person without experiencing what they experience, and I can call a foul a foul, and I can call a celebration a celebration.
Pretty much neutral.
Yeah, like
you can see that balance and
I can empathize,
right?
Because I think that it's beyond being beyond neutral. So I can't just say like, oh, whatever. Like I have to say no, like I'm really for y'all,
right?
Or like I'm against that, or those types of things.
Understood.
So I think just empathizing and realizing like we're connected, we're not all the same. I really love to embrace difference. So when people are different, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
But I think I also need to understand what you go through in life,
right.
And that's not the same for each individual person. But we're categorized and grouped for a reason, so there are some similarities amongst those.
I can relate to that as well. Like it just being, I see like being. I like to learn new things from different people.
Right.
I just went to Hawaii. And so just learning about their culture is a lot different than our African American culture. So just to be able to experience that, I tried new foods and things like that. Like I would tell anybody, we all walk a different path.
Right.
I cannot relate, but I can definitely understand. So it's just, I take that time I don't want to be ignorant, and I say ignorant in the definition form, not how we done change the meaning of it, but lack of knowledge of certain things. Correct. So I'm always open to learning new things.
Yeah.
And even just like with this conversation today, like I haven't been in a domestically violent situation myself, but I've seen that happen. I've had friends very close to me that's happened. So for me to not be an advocate would be weird based off of how I feel about living life,
right? And
to see somebody in that space. So a lot of being an advocate sometimes is being quiet.
Do you feel like there's consequences with being an advocate for some of these topics like domestic violence? Do you feel like there's backlash for you standing up for people that have been in a domestic situation? Like, do you feel like you've ever been, I guess the word is more like, ever standing up for something puts you in a bad spot?
Yeah, that's like that's just a part of what it is.
Domestic violence is very tricky when it comes to something like that.
I may say leave, and you might not leave, and you're not gonna be less of my friend. I'm not gonna be less of an advocate, but I have to understand the dynamics of that and meet you where you are.
Right.
I have friends that were victims of domestic violence as well. And I'll be the first to tell you that if you want my help, you have to really want help, because being in a domestic violence, it's a routine, it's a pattern. Yeah, you're saying you want to leave, but you go back when he gives you the sweet nothings, I'm sorry, the flowers, the candies, or whatever, and then you go back, and now you involved so many other people who care about you. So yeah,
we didn't forget what he did to you.
Right.
You know, we still feel some way about that. Even though you forgave him, I didn't forget that he just, whatever happened last week.
Yeah, and then like some people, they'll be like, well, I don't want you to look at them differently. Well, you put me you put me into that position to look differently. And I'll tell anybody, and this is something I had to learn. If you don't want nobody speaking their opinion or looking at them differently, don't involve them until you're ready.
Right.
Because like I said, it even in with my situation, I had innocent people that got involved to help me, and not me asking for help, and they got hurt in different ways trying to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even involve them. It just happened.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that, you have to, the people that are there for you, they'll understand. But then you have some people that's going to get fed up and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
You have boundaries.
Absolutely.
That's a tough one. It's always hard to want to help your friends when they're in a tight spot, but it's also like if I step in and everything is smoothed out, or you work everything out with your partner next week, and then I'm sitting
Emotionally
here
involved now.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at him with the side eye, but
Right.
y'all cool. And I'm like, I'm
and
not
now
cool
he
with
probably
this
feels some
anymore.
way because I didn't
Yeah.
call him all his name because he didn't.
Right. Now
he
he
hurt
don't like
you.
me because
Right.
he knows I have feelings. It's just a very, very
Mm-hmm.
sticky situation.
It's tough to
absolutely.
get involved. It's like, how do you help as a friend? Like, how, as a friend, me watching you go through a situation, it's like I feel helpless because ultimately I know it's up to you to get yourself out of the
To
situation.
make that
And I
decision.
can't really support you because I don't want to get into it. And like you said, you decide that it's something that you feel like you can work out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always
I think
hard to
you-
be a supporting friend in that situation.
Yeah, I think you
Oh,
have to
absolutely.
balance what and identify what a supporting friend is.
Yeah.
Because
and then-
there's boundaries. Like you have to have, like I've had people stay at my house, but it's a clear boundary when you come here. You are not to communicate with that person.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I stay straight up.
Mhm.
And there have been people who have said, okay, I need to go because they
Right.
need to connect with that. But is my house necessarily closed off to you? No, because I feel like you respected what I asked you to do,
Mhm.
or you respected not even what I asked you to do. You respected me
Right.
and my request in a very tough situation.
Mhm.
But there's people. I mean, it's all over the board. But I
Right.
think me expecting you to just jump out of a situation just because I'm telling you it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's not
It's-
it.
That's not a supportive friend to me.
Not only that, is a lot of people can be real biased about the situation. They're more wanting to interject and tell you, well, this is my way is right, my way is right, but not understanding that the emotional connection that's behind that relationship makes it, one, unsafe, and two, hard to try to leave.
Right.
So that's more where people, if you're gonna try to help, you have to understand.
What help looks
Would
like
you-
in that situation.
Right.
Exactly.
Because it's not going to be a hero day.
No.
It's not.
Right. Would you mind me asking how the situation started? Like, when did you realize, like, this is not just we arguing, we're in a relationship, we disagreeing? Like, when did you realize this is abuse?
When he hit me the first time, we were at a friend's house, and he got mad about something. I don't even know what it was. Like, it could be just the littlest things. And we were talking outside, and I was sitting in the car, and he grabbed me by my hair, and my, like, pieces of my hair were coming out.
Whoa.
And that's when I was like, it caught me so off guard that I wasn't.
Did you see any signs prior to
No.
that?
No,
So-
because when we argue, like, it was like normal, like relationship arguing,
Right.
but from wherever it just escalated.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another time where we were talking, and he cheated, and I just confronted him about it. Well, I'm not going to be in a relationship with you if that's what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we were outside of his apartments, Antigua Bay Apartments, and you know those old school Cadillacs that had the hard back to them
Yeah.
on the to hold the window in. He slammed my head against that, and he broke my phone in half, and he threw my keys on top of the shade structure where you parking. And so I ended up having to go to the hospital from that, and then that's when I was like, okay, I'm done. And then that's when the sweet nothings and everything came. So I had broke up with him for a good 2 months, and then he was just like, I'm sorry, and because I ended up calling the police, because in the state of Nevada, even if I don't press anybody, they'll press the charges for you. And so he had to go to court. He had to go to anger management and stuff like that. So when he started doing the classes and I seen that, that's when I was like, okay, well, maybe.
Changing.
Right. But it was the complete opposite. And then it happened again, and then I was just done. I was done. So.
How long did it go on?
It only happened 3 times, and we were together about a year and a half.
Okay.
Wow.
That's
So
to be
it,
scary.
like escalated pretty.
Oh, pretty,
quickly.
yeah.
Yeah. Whew. Now, I know you said that he didn't show any signs of being abusive prior to the first time he put his hands on you. Do you think that it was something to do with his upbringing, or his something that you guys may have talked about? It was something in him that may have caused him to exude this type of behavior, or
From my understanding and learning, he his father was that way. So domestic violence is a learned behavior. So that's something that you learn as a child because it's either been done to you or to somebody around you, and it's something that you witnessed. And because they stayed, they thought that that was okay.
Right.
So now you're taught that this is okay. This is how you're supposed to do. If you get in an argument with your wife or your girlfriend or significant other, that it's okay to put your hands on them because you're angry.
Were there children that witnessed the situation so that you guys have kids together?
No, we have no kids together. I did get pregnant by him, and I ended up having an abortion because it just things weren't. I didn't want. I was super against abortions, but I couldn't bring a child into
that environment.
to that environment. One, we weren't together, and two, that means I have to be attached to you for the rest of our lives.
Right.
So I couldn't do that to that child, despite how it was going to affect me. But that child is innocent, so there's no way I could do that. So I had to make that sacrifice.
Now we know that you've gone through came pretty close to losing your life, as I understand. And we know Nevada constantly ranks #1 in the nation for domestic violence fatalities. What is something that if you can tell a young woman anything, if she's in a domestic violence situation, if you can tell her anything, what would it be?
That it's going to escalate. And 9 times out of 10, it could end in death. And that's just what it is. It escalates fast. It starts with the verbal, and then it starts with the controlling and the blocking of the door, and you can't do this, and going through your phone, pretty much invading your privacy, to where it goes to the verbal abuse, and then mentally mind messing with you, to where you feel like you're dependent on this person. And then once that happens, then it starts to get physical, because now you'll try to be yourself, and you try to stand off and like be strong about it. Like, no, you're not going to talk to me this way.
Right.
You're not going to treat me this way. And then that's when they feel like they have to go up one, and then that's when the physical comes in. And so if I could tell a woman that is in a domestic violence, it's going to escalate and you need to leave. But you have to have a safe way of going about it, because it's dangerous.
That's what I was going to ask you. How did you finally go about leaving?
I had to change my phone number.
What was like the final situation that made you that got you away from him? I
just was tired. Like you eventually, every woman, despite the domestic violence, but when a woman is tired, it's a done thing.
Right.
Yeah. When a woman's fed up, R. Kelly said that.
Right. It's just a done thing.
Right.
And that's pretty much where I got to it. I'm like, I don't want this. This is not what I want. I'm better than that. I deserve better. I don't want to be crying all the time, worried about what you're doing, being physically harmed because you're mad because I said something that pissed you off. And it could be something little,
so
like,
now I gotta walk on eggshells.
Right. I don't know if you're having a bad day, so if I decide to joke with you, now you're taking it serious.
Right.
And I just
There's
didn't
no
want
way to live.
No. It's too I don't like being controlled. I'm such a free spirit type to where being held down
and controlled,
it doesn't work.
So you said you changed your number.
I changed my number. I had to change my friends' numbers because he was calling their phone. I even offered to break their lease for them because he was coming to their house.
So it turned into like a stalking situation.
Yeah, it was just so much.
Whoa.
So much.
So prior to you being in that situation, did you know anyone that was in a domestic situation? Because I just, what makes me ask that is people, it's always easy to say, why don't you just leave?
Right.
Like, when you're coming to people and telling them, like, this is what's happening to me, their first answer is, so what are you still doing there?
I never told. I never told. My mom suspected something was going on. In fact, she thought I was on drugs. But I don't do drugs. I've never done drugs. It was just that controlling mindset. I was losing weight.
You weren't yourself.
No, I was losing weight because I was so stressed out. I was that person, that ignorant person. Why don't you just leave?
Right.
I wish a man would put his hands on me. And then when you're in that situation, it's like,
it's different.
What the hell?
Right.
Like it's completely different. So anytime I hear somebody or the statement, what'd you do? what did you do to
what brought this on? You
right,
must
what
be
made
mad.
you mad? You're right, you had to have did something.
Because ain't no man just about to.
Right.
Because even with, I'm sorry to get off topic, even with the Rihanna and Chris Brown situation, people still to this day talk about, well, she put her hands on him first. Does that justify him beating her ass the way he did? Like,
it's not justified for anybody to put their hands on each other at all.
Put on anybody.
No,
So,
I don't hit nobody.
yeah.
I'm not willing to let them hit me back.
Right. And I say this: if you're a woman and you're man enough to hit a man, you're man enough to get hit back by the man. So I don't put my hands on nobody. But with that, like, I was that person. Like, you know, I wish a man would, and that's. But it's such an ignorant thing to say. Or when I've had a lot of people say, "Well, what'd you do?" And I said, "So why do I have to have did something?"
Right.
Like, why does it have to be my fault? That I never asked for this. Who wants to ask to be stabbed 18 times or hit? Things like that. Nobody asked for that. So I tell them, I said, I'm not mad at you because I know it's the ignorance because you don't know. But let me educate you. It's not the right question to ask somebody. Years ago, that was something that really irated me. Like, it changed my whole mindset. I get easily angered when it happened. I'm like, why is it my fault? Why do you you weren't even there and you just blamed me. And
for you being stabbed?
Right.
Wow.
Like, what
year did that happen?
2008.
Wow.
May 9th.
Wow.
Do you want to get in a little bit into, because it's one thing to hit or for him to put his hands on you, but stabbing, that was, when I seen the video, because I've actually watched the video, I was
the Metro
blown
video.
away.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just like, I can't believe that she really experienced that. I couldn't even imagine what that whole experience was like for you. How did that happen?
What happened is that January, so it all started like from January up until May. So January, he knew that I was pregnant, but I told him I had a miscarriage, but I had an abortion. And that's when I was like, I'm done. And then that's when I changed all the numbers and everything, and he still had my cousin's number. And I was out, and he trying to get in contact with me, and so I finally called him back, but I called him back blocked to make sure he didn't have my phone number. And he wanted to meet me because in January I had got a speeding ticket. Left foot. And he wanted to pay for my ticket. And I'm like, well, I'm out right now. He's like, all right, well, whenever you're done, just come by the house and I'll give you the money. And then we can pretty much part ways.
His way in.
Yeah. And so, and at that time, I didn't know that. I was just like, all right, well, I'm not staying long. I'm not, none of this. I don't want to have any other conversations than what I'm coming for. And so I get there, I pull up behind him, and, well, his mother's car. And I walk up the stairs. It was off of Bruce and Charleston. And so those are how those apartments are set up. You know, the staircase, well, all staircases are outside, I guess, to the apartment. But how it was like, the stairs were facing the street, and then you could see the apartment pretty much like a hotel kind of way, and well, like a motel type shit. Oh, sorry.
Girl.
It's the way.
And so I walked all the way up the stairs, so you could clearly see the cars from where we're standing. And I knock on the door. His friend answers, and I was like, "Well, where's Derek?" He's like, "He's not here." I was like, "What do you mean he's not here? I just talked to him." He's like, "Well, he's not here." And I hear my name being called down from downstairs. So I turn around and I'm like, "So you watched me walk all the way upstairs?"
Right.
And he's like, "I was laying down. I didn't see you pull up." So, side note was that looking back at it, he was watching to see who all was with me and who.
So he
there.
planned this.
Yeah,
he was plotting to.
Yeah, this was all premeditated.
Wow.
Whoa.
So I walked back downstairs and I was like, okay, well, where's the money at? And he's like, well, I need to talk to you and it's upstairs. I'm like, all right. So we walked back upstairs and he asked me to wait outside. And I'm like, I'm not about to wait outside. I'll just stand right here. If you need to talk, let's just talk real quick.
Right.
And so I go in the house and I didn't want to disrespect his mom. So I just waited in the living room. So he's grabbing his wallet. But at that time, he had grabbed a knife that I didn't know about. It was a pocket knife.
Wow.
So I didn't know that he even did that. And so we come back outside, and then he's like, Sandria, can you wait downstairs? I need to talk to Janae. He's like, well, hurry up because I have to go get my daughter. She's sick. So he was like, okay, I'll be fast. And he's like, well, who's your boyfriend? I'm like, I don't have no boyfriend. I broke up with you because I don't want this, no relationship. I need me time.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, whenever I find out who your boyfriend is, I'm going to beat him up. I'm like, okay, well, when you find out who he is, you let me know who's blaming me.
I'm looking for him too.
Right, because I don't know who this person is.
Right.
And so he was saying some other stuff, and I just was like, I'm not going to keep repeating myself. I don't have a boyfriend. Whether you want to believe it or not, I'm done. If you're going to give me the money, give it to me. If not, I'm going to leave. So we walked back downstairs, and he, again, persisted with the questions, is, who's your boyfriend? When I find, I'm like, dude, whatever. So I tried to reach to get in the car, so he pushed me. I'm like, Derek, I'm not about to do this with you. So I reached again to the car again, and that's when he stabbed me in the stomach.
Oh, my God.
And he kind of looked at me like, why didn't she drop? Like, I just, stabbed her. It felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. So if you ever been hit in the stomach, it's like that.
Kind of the wind knocked out of you.
Yeah.
Knocked the wind out of you.
That's what it felt like. So I walked around the car, and my sister unlocked the door.
So he was trying to kill you.
Yeah. That was his intention.
You said your sister was there?
Yeah. And she opened the door for me, and as I'm trying to get in the car, that's when he ran around, and he started attacking me.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
He was stabbing me, but because my adrenaline was running so high, I didn't know. And so I seen my sister came, and she tried to help, and so he ended up stabbing her.
What?
So he stabbed her 6 times, and so that's when I noticed in my hands that they were bleeding, and I thought maybe I cut them on the street, but come to find out they were defensive wounds. So I was stabbed in my hands as well. Yeah, I was fighting back, and so
You remember all this clearly?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could tell you
Because
exactly.
I'm thinking, like, in that situation, I would be so, like...
No, I could tell you exactly what he was wearing. He had on blue basketball shorts with a light blue side on them. He had on some blue shoes, a red hoodie with yellow writing on it, and a black hat with a yellow P.
Wow.
I hope he got a lot of time for this.
Yeah, he ended up getting 32 to 80 years in prison.
Good.
So, because
Crazy.
he had... When he was done stabbing my sister, he came back to me, and he was like, tell me you love me. And so I'm repeating him. And he's like, tell me I'm the only one for you.
Whoa.
So I repeated him. He's like, I'm going to die with you, Janae. And that's when he cut my neck. And then he flipped the knife on him. But he cut his neck, but used the back of the knife when I found out when we went to court. And he stole my car and left me and my sister there.
To bleed to death.
Yeah, but I ended up calling 911 myself.
Mm-hmm.
And they came, and I gave them the directions on where I was at. And they came, and they took me to the hospital. And that's when I seen my mom, because I was stabbed 18 times. I had 2 collapsed lungs. And they had to give me chest tubes on both sides to drain the blood, because the blood was so much in my chest. And I just remember waking up to my mom being there, and she just looked at me because I was cold. I was thirsty, and they wouldn't give me nothing to drink. And I was cussing because I was in so much pain. They was like, Janae, you have to stop cussing. I'm like trying to negotiate with them. I'm like, I promise I'll stop cussing if you give me some water. And they was like, we can't give you no water because we don't know how intense the injuries are, but we can give you some ice chips. Boy, I sucked the shit out of that ice. I was trying to turn it to water so bad. It was funny. I know it's not supposed to be a funny situation, but it was funny. And so I just remember they gave me the ice chips, and then I woke up to my mom looking at me, and I just remember telling her, and this always chokes me up, and looking at her, telling her, like, I wasn't going to die before saying goodbye to you. Mm-hmm. That was... Because my mom is my best friend. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that he was going to try to take me from her it was like, Mm-hmm. So, but I ended up making it. So
Praise God.
I didn't have to say bye to her.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, my mom to this day can't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I could tell the story all day, but that part, when it comes to
her getting that call.
Yeah, the police called her and was like, is this the mother of Janae Williams? Because that was my name at the time before I got married. And she was like, yeah, what'd she do? I was like, dang. Because y'all know me. I was always in trouble in school because I was talking back. But whatever. And he was like, no, we just got Janae down here. She got a few nicks. So we just need you to come down
because you
here.
Can't shock her before she gets there.
And then that's when she was there.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, he ended up
And your sister's okay?
Yep, she was, they kicked her out the hospital the next day. They was like, you're fine. Because she, her injuries weren't, she got stabbed one time on the chest, but it wasn't,
It wasn't like deep.
But because, if the knife had been an inch longer, it would have pierced my heart.
Oh my God.
So, luckily, it was just, the pocket knife or whatever. And so, they kicked her out the hospital the next day. And then, I'm in the hospital, and all the people are coming. I was like, listen, I saw this on TV, right? When people are in the hospital, y'all supposed to bring them stuff like flowers and balloons and stuff. So you guys gotta, right? Y'all gotta do that. They was like, Janae, how was you just attacked and went through all of this and still kill
you want some gifts?
I was like, and then anything I'll tell anybody, I'm like, I didn't let that change me. I wasn't gonna let that take that control over me, because a lot of people, even when they see me now who don't know me, they'll look at my scars and see, and they're like, "What, were you in a car accident?" I was like, "No, I was stabbed."
You're open about it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I could openly.
I never went to counseling for it.
I was going to ask you that. How did you emotionally recover from it?
Just doing what I'm doing now, motivational speaking, and just talking to juveniles and women about what happened. And so I'm still really good friends with the detective who was on my case, Detective Schmidt. Love him to death. Still my buddy. This is 8 years later. Wow. And so, yeah, he got 32 to 80 years consecutive. So he has to parole off of each charge. So he has 2 attempted murders, assault with a deadly weapon with substantially bodily harm, and grand larceny because he stole my car. So he's got the 5 charges. And so on each one, there's 8 to 12, and he has to parole off of each one. So if for whatever reason he gets in trouble in prison, the max he can do on each charge is 12 years. So he'll go up to the parole board at 8 years, and then if they feel like he's not ready to be off of parole, to parole off of that charge, he has to do a couple, however many more years they want him to do on that one specific one.
He ain't getting out.
So no, he has to do 32 years.
I know we had a show about mental illness. That right there is like something is mentally wrong with someone that wants to just kill you. Like he wanted to kill you.
I was going to ask you too, do you feel like that's justice? Do you feel like what he got was the fact that he intended to kill you and he got 32 years minimum? Like, how do you put a number on that to say, like, okay, I feel like that's okay for you?
Right. No, to me, well, to answer your question, that come to find out later, he was supposed to be diagnosed with bipolarness.
Yeah, something was wrong.
And so, I didn't know that during the relationship. But
he probably didn't know.
No, he was getting medicine for it, and I didn't know that. And he got a disability check for it.
Wow.
And I didn't know that's what the disability check was for. So I was never aware of this until his ex-girlfriend told me all of this after all of this happened. As far as putting a number on it, I personally told the judge when I did my impact statement, I know it's not a murder charge, but I feel that he should get the penalties for murder.
Because we don't have the fully intended to kill me.
We don't have death penalty here, so we have just life in prison. But she gave him the max for each that she could. Oh, that's and because I ended up making the judge cry when I read my impact statement, and so yeah, she was pissed. She was crying, and that was one of the advocates that was working with me. She was telling me when the judge starts to eat candy or starts to chew on some ice, yeah, she's pissed off. So I lucked up getting a woman judge, so which was pretty cool. Pretty cool. So my mom, and it's so funny, the shirt that I was stabbed in, my mom wore that exact same shirt to court.
Wow.
Just to prove a point. Right. And she told him that.
Wow. It's interesting that
he never said anything.
He never apologized. I was going to ask you, when the last time you contacted him? What he said to you, was that the last thing he ever said?
He tried reaching out to me, like, through, at the time, MySpace. And he was talking to people on MySpace, and we were in his account. And we were seeing the conversation that he was having. And it was just crazy to see him bragging about it. He bragged.
Yeah, something was wrong with him. Something is truly wrong.
Wow.
He needs to
and it's
help.
funny
Hopefully he gets the help that he needs.
Well,
in prison, because something's wrong.
Yeah, definitely. That you said you lucked up and got a woman judge, but I'm thinking still even a man should be able to recognize that that's not right.
Right. women relate differently than, and the emotional side of a woman is a little different than a man.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said I looked up and had a woman.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it's funny. I'm just saying, like, just the fact that men should be able to relate just as much as a woman should to, a domestic situation like that. But so you said you are doing motivational speaking now. What's the youngest you've seen women affected by domestic abuse?
Like 13.
Wow.
From the juveniles that I was speaking with that were on probation, the youngest who spoke with me was 13.
Wow.
And domestic violence is not just with the spouse. It could be by your parent, your significant other, your friend, your close friend. If you had a relationship longer than a year, that's considered domestic violence. Or if you and a roommate are sharing a place and you guys get into an altercation, it's no longer assault. It's domestic violence.
Well, we definitely appreciate you coming through and sharing your story. I'm sure it's going to touch or help somebody out there that's listening to us. For anonymous confidential help that's available 24/7, there is a National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. If you feel like you yourself or a loved one needs some help, don't hesitate to call that number.
You can also look at my video. It's on YouTube.
Sure.
Janae Williams, and my first name Janay.
I wanted to ask too before we close. I'm sorry, I had two more questions. Have you helped any men in a domestic situation?
Men are not likely to speak about it. So when I hear it, I share my story with them, but they don't ever open up and tell it because
they're embarrassed.
It's demasculating them.
But it does happen,
right? It does happen. It happens to men, and then it's just crazy. Like the domestic violence is the least reported crime. It's more accepting in the Latin community.
Really?
Yeah, it's a part of their culture.
Oh, yeah.
I think, too, part of living in Vegas, I'm just going to say, there's a lot of prostitution, I guess is the word. I mean, I've seen a lot of women and heard of a lot of women that are in domestic situations, but for lack of better words, it comes with the job. So they don't speak on it, they don't talk about it, they don't report it until it gets to the point where it's like near death like that. So I don't know if it's just a Las Vegas thing, but that might be a lot of reason, too.
It's Vegas. It's all over the place. I think Vegas does have, like, because we can see it so easily, because we can see, like that prostitution in that way, like that's a way we can identify. But I think it definitely still happens over. And I think it's like a focus. I do kind of when I moved here from Minnesota, I was able to see like there's a difference in how people have relationships here. And so I think because it's such a transient city where people move, like people kind of do whatever, there's like a disconnect here with just kind of relating to people. And so I think when you have that disconnect and then talk about what it looks like to have healthy relationships and healthy friendships and all those other things, I do believe that's very different here in that way.
I can agree
than other places where like, everybody been here for a while. And I think that there's definitely some negativity and some unhealthy habits within the traditional or the legacy type of cultures. That's different, but it looks different here.
Absolutely. I can agree with that. Like I was talking to a man the other day, like I was just expressing like how I am. I'm like that. I'll cook you dinner, make sure your clothes is washed, iron, like wifey shit stuff.
No, you can curse, girl. You can curse.
Right. But
this is an explicit podcast.
Things like that. I'm like, because how men are being raised now, they want a bad bitch. They want what they see on TV. They want the light-skinned one with the long hair, fake, all that. And and that's not what it's about. Right. So I have a very difficult time connect with any men here because of that one reason. Anyway,
we gotta invite you back for our follow-up to our dating episode. Because listen, I feel it. And that just reminds me, too, my mom always tells me, like, okay, she knows I'm single. When you out there dating, just make sure you asking the right questions. It's cool that he fine and everything. Right. However, what's his mental health like? Because you got to think about if you start having children with this man, if you decide you want to get married to this man, not only your children going to inherit whatever illnesses he might have. But you also are now tied to a person, like you said, that might have a mental illness, and you're attached to them because you have a child together. Those are things you need to know up front before you decide if you want to move forward or not. The last question I had was just like about men stepping in, because I'm assuming some of the situations that happened were public. So like when he hit you before, was it public?
No, it was all behind closed doors. And the thing was, his friends never said anything. They never got involved. His mom never got involved. His sister, they just was like, they again asked me, well, what did you do?
Mm-hmm.
So it was always me. They always ran to his aid and
point the finger.
Yeah,
Right.
it was never, this is wrong. It's, well, Janae, it's your fault.
You must have provoked
Yeah.
it. Well, do y'all feel like it's the place of, say, a strange man to step in and if they see a domestic situation out?
I
Because
think
just
it's place of a person. I think everybody, does that mean you step into a particular situation because I need you to be a hero? No, I'm not saying that.
Right.
But you call the cops.
Yes.
You do. You let somebody know if there's a situation and she's not looking. If she's looking at you like this is not going to help for you to do this, then you need to respect that. Take down that license plate. Do whatever say that this is what I saw. Document these things. I don't think it always is like, oh, you a man, so you got to step in the middle of that.
Yeah.
You have a family. You have these other things, and being an advocate is not the same as being like the hero 24/7. And being a hero looks a certain type of way. It looks many different ways. So I think that that's my take on it. Is I think that you should
absolutely
step in and be an advocate, but it always doesn't look like you physically stepping into that moment.
Because you could say just little things like, are you okay? Do you need any help? Once they say no, then there's nothing else you could do after that.
Because you might cause a greater situation because
When you get
if she's
home.
not ready to go,
right.
when she gets home, now it could possibly be a whole different situation. So I think that's what being an advocate is like being able to assess and empathize and realize that it's not about your voice at this time. Sometimes you got to take the mic and, amplify somebody's voice because they may not be able to say something but you need to figure out where's that person first.
Right.
Because if I just step in physically and pull you off of her, like I'm not thinking about her entirely.
Later. Yep.
That's true. There's consequences for it later, possibly, and you don't know that. All you see is the now.
And if it is a situation, but that doesn't mean to not physically step.
Right.
Like you really have to think about the situation
Right.
and think about what you're okay with too. Because when you, like you said, when you realize when you step in that situation, that's probably not going to end right there.
Right.
It's not.
No, definitely not. Well, as always, we thank you guys for listening, and we thank you, Janae, for joining us today.
Yes,
thank you,
for
Queen,
sharing your
story.
Yeah,
We definitely appreciate it, just giving your firsthand experience. I know it's not easy to talk about, so the fact that you were willing to come and open up about something that was life-changing means a lot to us, and I know our listeners are going to appreciate your story too. So we ask you to join the conversation. It doesn't have to be, you guys can definitely comment on our social media if it's something that you want to add. You can also DM us, but we are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, 3 Queens and Things, and thank you for listening. I'm Ati.
I'm Mimi Ford.
I'm Sola T.
I'm Janae.
And we are 3 Queens and Things.
4 Queens of Things today.
Today we 4.
Thank you.
Thank you.